Delaney pushed open the heavy glass door of the Banana Republic store in downtown Chicago, the chime echoing like a distant warning she chose to ignore. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a stack of blouses, her mind a whirlwind of unresolved arguments from last night's family dinner. Her mother's pointed remarks about settling down with a nice man, still stinging like fresh wounds. But it was in the fitting room, curtain drawn tight against the world, that everything shattered. Margaret, the sales associate with kind eyes and a name tag glinting under fluorescent lights, slipped in to help adjust a stubborn zipper, their fingers brushing in a moment that sparked an electric recognition neither could deny. Delaney froze, her reflection in the mirror blurring as Margaret's touch lingered just a second too long. What was this? She had always pushed such thoughts deep down, buried under layers of societal expectations and her own fears. Margaret pulled back, her cheeks flushing, murmuring an apology that sounded more like a confession. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said. But her voice carried an undercurrent of something unspoken, a shared secret that hung heavy in the air. Delaney's heart raced. She had come here for clothes to impress at her cousin's wedding, not to confront the dormant desires that now clawed their way to the surface. Why now? Why her? The questions swirled in her mind, demanding answers she wasn't ready to give. As Margaret stepped out, Delaney sank onto the small bench, staring at her hands. She thought of her life back home in the suburbs, engaged to Tom, the safe choice her parents adored, the one who fit neatly into their vision of success. But that brush of skin had awakened something raw, a hunger for authenticity she had long suppressed. Was this betrayal? Not yet, but the seed was planted. She dressed quickly, avoiding her own eyes in the mirror, and emerged to find Margaret at the register, their gazes locking in silent acknowledgement. "Find everything okay?" Margaret asked, her tone professional but laced with tension. Delaney nodded, paying for items she no longer cared about, her mind replaying the moment on loop. Driving home, the city lights blurred through tears she couldn't explain. Tom waited with dinner plans, oblivious, but Delaney felt the fracture lines forming in her carefully constructed world. That night, sleep evaded her. Tom's arm draped over her felt like a chain, heavy with unspoken obligations. She replayed Margaret's face, those soft features, the way her dark hair framed her eyes with quiet intensity. Who was she? A stranger, yet in that fleeting touch, Delaney saw a mirror of her own hidden self. The internal conflict raged. Her family's conservative roots, rooted in Midwestern values where deviation meant exile. Her father, a pastor, had preached against unnatural lifestyles, his words echoing in her ears like judgments from on high. To pursue this would mean risking everything: her engagement, her job at the law firm where whispers could destroy reputations, her place in the family circle. But ignoring it felt like suffocating, a slow death of the soul. By morning, resolve hardened. She would return to the store, if only to prove it was nothing. Back at Banana Republic the next day, Delaney feigned interest in scarves, her eyes scanning for Margaret. There she was, folding shirts with precise movements that belied inner turmoil. Their conversation started innocently, recommendations on fabrics, but quickly deepened. "You seemed shaken yesterday," Margaret ventured, her voice low. Delaney hesitated, then confessed. It was more than the zipper. Margaret's eyes widened, a flicker of hope mixed with fear. She shared her own story in hushed tones. Out to friends but closeted at work and home, her immigrant parents from a culture where such truths were taboos. The connection was immediate, electric, a shared understanding of the battles fought in silence. They exchanged numbers under the guise of customer service, but both knew it was the start of something dangerous. Days blurred into secret texts, late-night calls where vulnerabilities poured out. Delaney found herself lying to Tom about work meetings, the guilt gnawing at her like acid. Margaret spoke of her own sacrifices, turning down promotions to avoid scrutiny, the loneliness of living a double life. Their first meeting outside the store was at a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts, away from prying eyes. Sitting across from each other, the air thick with unspoken desire, Delaney felt alive for the first time. "This could ruin us," she whispered. Margaret nodded, her hand reaching across the table but stopping short. "But isn't hiding ruining us already?" The question hung, a challenge to Delaney's every belief. As weeks passed, the affair deepened, not in physicality, but in emotional entanglement. Delaney's internal monologues grew tormenting. How could she love Tom yet crave Margaret's understanding? Was this selfishness or self-discovery? Family dinners became battlegrounds. Her mother's probing questions about wedding plans felt like interrogations. One evening, after a particularly heated call with Margaret about their futures, Delaney snapped at Tom over trivialities, the crack in their relationship widening. He sensed the distance, his confusion turning to hurt accusations. "What's going on with you?" he demanded. She deflected, but the lie tasted bitter. Margaret faced her own demons, her sister's suspicions leading to tense confrontations at home, the fear of disownment looming like a shadow. The pressure built, decisions looming. Delaney contemplated ending it, but each time she tried, the thought of losing Margaret's voice in the night felt unbearable. Margaret, too, wrestled with ethics. Was pursuing this worth the pain it would cause? Their meetings grew fraught, arguments flaring over the morality of their choices. "We're not hurting anyone yet," Delaney argued once, but Margaret shot back. "We're hurting ourselves by pretending." The tension escalated, each conversation a step closer to the precipice. Delaney's work suffered. A missed deadline drew warnings from her boss, her focus shattered by the constant internal war. One night, after a stolen hour in a park, Delaney returned home to find Tom waiting, his face etched with betrayal. He had seen a text flash on her phone, innocent but enough to spark doubt. The confrontation was brutal. Tears, shouts, revelations half-spoken. "Who is she?" he demanded, the word "she" hanging like an accusation. Delaney denied, but the seed of doubt was sown. Lying in bed alone that night, she questioned everything. Was this freedom or folly? The cost was mounting, and the path ahead promised only more pain. The fallout from Tom's suspicions rippled through Delaney's life like aftershocks from an earthquake she had triggered. She doubled down on denials, but the trust between them eroded, conversations turning into minefields of unspoken resentments. Internally, she berated herself. How had a simple fitting room moment led to this unraveling? Margaret became her confidant, their bond strengthening amid the chaos, but even that carried its own weight. Guilt over the deception, fear of exposure. Margaret's world was no less turbulent. At home, her parents' expectations pressed in. Arranged introductions to suitable men from their community, veiled threats about family honor. She confided in Delaney during a clandestine walk along Lake Michigan, the wind whipping their words away. "They disown me," Margaret said, her voice cracking. Delaney squeezed her hand briefly, a risky gesture in public, her mind racing with the implications. What right did she have to encourage this, when her own engagement ring still gleamed on her finger? The moral quandary gnawed. Was love worth the destruction of families? As their relationship deepened, conflicts arose from within. Delaney's jealousy flared when Margaret mentioned a work colleague's flirtations, leading to heated exchanges. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," Margaret snapped during one call. Delaney shot back. "And you think I do? I'm risking my entire life." The arguments exposed raw vulnerabilities. Delaney's fear of abandonment, rooted in a childhood of conditional love. Margaret's resentment toward a society that forced her to hide. Yet these clashes only pulled them closer, the intensity forging a bond unbreakable by logic. Society's gaze felt omnipresent. At a firm event, Delaney overheard colleagues whispering about a coworker's lifestyle choices. The disdain palpable. It hit home. If discovered, her career could crumble. Partnerships revoked in the name of professionalism. She shared this with Margaret, who nodded solemnly. "We've got to be careful," she urged, but caution bred paranoia. They met less frequently, the absence amplifying longing and doubt. Delaney's inner turmoil peaked in solitary moments. Was this authenticity or self-sabotage? The price of honesty seemed exorbitant. Tom's patience wore thin. One evening he confronted her again, packing a bag in frustration. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his eyes pleading for truth. Delaney's heart broke. He didn't deserve this limbo. She almost confessed, but fear silenced her. As he left for his brother's, she called Margaret, sobbing. "What are we doing?" Margaret's response was steady. "Fighting for us." But doubt crept in. Was us real, or a fantasy born of rebellion? The turning point came at a family gathering. Delaney's mother, sensing discord, pulled her aside. Marriage is about sacrifice, she lectured, her words laced with unspoken judgments. Delaney nodded mechanically, but inside rebellion stirred. That night, she drove to Margaret's apartment, the first time crossing that threshold. They talked for hours, no touches, just words, dreams of a life unhidden, the costs enumerated like debts. My parents would never accept it, Margaret whispered. Delaney echoed. Mine either. The shared pain bonded them, but also highlighted the chasm. Betrayal loomed when Margaret's sister discovered a hidden photo on her phone. An innocuous selfie of the two. The confrontation was explosive. Accusations of perversion, threats to tell their parents. Margaret defended fiercely, but the damage was done. She called Delaney in panic. She might out me. Delaney's response was instinctive. We'll face it together. But internally terror gripped her. Exposure meant losing her family, her stability. In the ensuing days, Margaret distanced herself, wrestling with loyalty to blood versus heart. Delaney felt the sting of potential abandonment. Her mind a storm of what-ifs. Work became a refuge, but even there, rumors swirled about office diversity policies, reminding her of the stakes. A promotion opportunity arose, but accepting it meant more visibility, more risk. She turned it down, the decision a quiet sacrifice for their secret. Reconciliation with Tom seemed impossible. He demanded answers she couldn't give. In a moment of weakness, Delaney suggested couples therapy, buying time. But her heart wasn't in it. Margaret occupied her thoughts, a constant pull. The ethical dilemma intensified. Continuing meant hurting Tom irreparably. Ending meant denying herself. Margaret's crisis escalated when her parents confronted her, prompted by her sister's hints. The family dinner turned interrogation. Are you seeing someone we wouldn't approve of? Margaret deflected, but the lie cost her soul. Later with Delaney she broke down. I can't keep this up. Their embrace was platonic, yet charged with desperation. The night ended in resolve. They would plan an escape, but reality intruded. Jobs, finances, the web of obligations. As tensions mounted, Delaney faced her own familial pressure. Her father called, inviting her to church, his voice heavy with concern. God's path is clear, he said. She hung up, tears flowing, questioning her faith versus her feelings. The internal conflict reached fever pitch. Right or wrong? The answer eluded her, but the path forward demanded a choice. The web of deceptions tightened, strangling the air from Delaney's lungs as she navigated daily life. Tom's return home was tentative, marked by awkward silences and forced normalcy. She threw herself into wedding planning to appease him, each detail a nail in her coffin of denial. But Margaret's calls were lifelines, pulling her back to truth. We need to decide, Margaret urged in one hushed conversation. Delaney agreed, but fear paralyzed her. The thought of her mother's disappointed face, her father's sermons turned personal weapons. Margaret's family rift deepened. Her sister, fueled by righteous indignation, issued an ultimatum. Confess or be exposed. Margaret chose silence, but the strain showed. Sleepless nights, withdrawn demeanor at work. She confided in Delaney during a rare meeting in a secluded cafe, her hands shaking. I'm losing them either way. Delaney's heart ached. She wanted to promise safety, but knew it was illusion. Internally, she grappled, was encouraging Margaret's selfishness or support. Society's undercurrents surged. A news story about a local politician's anti-LGBT stance hit close, rallies downtown amplifying voices of hate and hope. Delaney attended one anonymously, the crowd's energy stirring something defiant. She texted Margaret, "We deserve this." But returning home to Tom's questioning gaze eroded that fire. The double life exhausted her. Smiles for colleagues, lies for loved ones. A pivotal betrayal came from within their circle. Delaney's best friend, sensing changes, pressed for details. In a moment of vulnerability, Delaney hinted at her turmoil, swearing secrecy. But the friend, bound by her own morals, confided in Tom, believing it for the best. The revelation exploded. Tom confronted Delaney with evidence. Text screenshots, pieced together. How could you? He roared, pain twisting his features. Delaney crumbled, admitting the emotional affair, though sparing graphic details. The hurt in his eyes was a dagger. She had traded his trust for her awakening. Tom left for good that night, the door slam echoing her failures. Alone, Delaney spiraled. Was this liberation or loss? She called Margaret, who arrived despite risks. They sat on the floor, tears mingling in shared grief. He didn't deserve this, Delaney whispered. Margaret nodded. Neither do we, hiding. The night forged their commitment, but at what cost? Margaret's exposure followed swiftly. Her sister told their parents, the confrontation a storm of cultural clashes, shouts in their native tongue, accusations of Western corruption. Margaret stood firm, declaring her truth for the first time. I love her, she said, the words a declaration of war. Her father's silence was deafening. Her mother's tears a flood. Cast out, she packed bags, arriving at Delaney's with nowhere else to go. Living together was a hasty decision, born of necessity. The apartment became a sanctuary and prison. Joy in stolen moments, tension in every shadow. Delaney's family learned through Tom, the news spreading like wildfire. Her mother's call was hysterical. This is a phase, come home. Her father's was colder. You've chosen sin. The rejection cut deep, years of love conditional on conformity. Workplaces reacted variably. Delaney's firm, progressive on paper, offered support but sidelined her from client-facing roles. Margaret quit Banana Republic, whispers following her out. Job hunts were fraught. Interviews probed personal lives under guises. The financial strain mounted. Bills piling, savings dwindling. Delaney's inner voice screamed. Was love worth poverty? Conflicts between them arose, stress fracturing unity. Arguments over money, futures. Delaney's resentment at lost security. Margaret's guilt over uprooting lives. I never asked you to sacrifice everything, Margaret yelled once. Delaney retorted. But you did by existing. The words hung, regrets immediate. Reconciliation followed, but scars lingered. Society's backlash intensified. Anonymous messages online, judging their choice. A family friend's wedding uninvited them. The snub, a public shaming. Delaney attended therapy alone, unpacking layers of internalized shame. Am I wrong? She asked the counselor. The neutral response offered no solace. As months passed, glimmers of hope emerged amid despair. Support groups connected them to others, stories mirroring theirs validating the struggle. But the toll was evident. Delaney's weight loss, Margaret's anxiety attacks. A job offer for Margaret in another city forced a decision. Move together, starting anew, or part ways for stability. The choice loomed, high stakes and heart-wrenching. Delaney weighed it nightly. Follow love into uncertainty, or reclaim fragments of her old life. Margaret echoed the doubt, their discussions endless loops of pros and cons. The tension built to a breaking point, decisions hanging by threads. Relocation to Seattle offered a fresh start, but the move was a gauntlet of sacrifices. Delaney quit her job, trading security for solidarity. The farewell email a eulogy to her ambitions. Packing boxes unearthed memories, photos with Tom family heirlooms now tainted. Are we running away? She asked Margaret during the drive cross-country. Margaret gripped the wheel. Or toward something real. Internally, Delaney doubted. Freedom's price was steep, isolation her new companion. Settling in, challenges piled. Housing discrimination subtle but real. Landlords' hesitations at their application. Jobs were scarce. Delaney tempied at a cafe, a far cry from law offices. Margaret found retail work, echoes of her past haunting. Financial stress bred arguments. We can't afford this, Delaney snapped over bills. Margaret countered. We afford what matters. The friction exposed cracks. Delaney's lingering grief for lost family, Margaret's cultural disconnection. Family estrangement deepened wounds. Delaney's calls home went unanswered. Voicemails pleading for understanding deleted unheard. A letter from her mother arrived. Come back to God. It tore her apart. Nights spent questioning her path. Margaret's parents severed ties completely. No responses to outreach. The void filled with mutual support, but resentment simmered. Why must love demand such exile? Society in Seattle was more accepting, but prejudices lingered. At a pride event, they held hands publicly for the first time. Exhilaration mixed with vigilance. A passerby's glare reminded them. Safety was illusion. Delaney's inner monologues turned philosophical. Was visibility courage or recklessness? The event sparked connections, new friends sharing survival stories, but also envy for those with supportive kin. Betrayal resurfaced when an old colleague leaked Delaney's story online. Anonymous posts painting her as a homewrecker. The digital backlash was swift. Threats, judgments from strangers. Margaret comforted her, but fear took root. "We should go private," she suggested. Delaney refused. "Hiding got us here." The standoff highlighted differences. Margaret's caution versus Delaney's defiance. Professional setbacks compounded. Margaret's promotion stalled due to fit concerns, code for bias. Delaney pursued freelance law work, but clients shied away. A breakthrough case fell through when her orientation surfaced. "Is this worth it?" Delaney whispered one night. Margaret's embrace was answer enough, but doubt lingered. Personal growth emerged from ashes. Therapy sessions unpacked traumas, Delaney confronting her upbringing's shackles. Margaret explored her heritage anew, blending old and new identities. Their bond evolved, less passion-fueled, more resilient partnership. But intimacy's absence, self-imposed to navigate emotions, bred frustration. A crisis hit when Margaret's health faltered. Stress-induced illness requiring hospitalization. Delaney sat vigil, the scare crystallizing priorities. "I can't lose you," she confessed. Released, Margaret proposed formal commitment. A quiet ceremony, symbol of defiance. Planning it was cathartic, but invitations to absent families stung. Opposition arose from unexpected quarters. Tom's reappearance via email, seeking closure, reopened wounds. "You destroyed us," he wrote. Delaney responded honestly, apologizing without regret. The exchange brought partial peace, but highlighted irreversible damages. As the ceremony approached, tensions peaked. Last-minute doubts assailed. Delaney's fear of permanence, Margaret's of inadequacy. An argument erupted. "Are we ready?" The reconciliation was tearful, reaffirming choices. The day arrived, simple vows exchanged before witnesses. Joy mingled with sorrow. Absent loved ones' ghosts in the room. Post-ceremony, reality intruded. Legal protections scant, societal acceptance patchy. But in that moment they claimed victory. Adjustment followed, routines building stability. Jobs improved marginally, community support bolstering. Yet scars remained, holidays alone, milestones unshared. Delaney reflected. The path chosen was right, but the cost eternal. Years into their union, the echoes of past choices reverberated, shaping a life of quiet resilience amid ongoing battles. Delaney's career rebounded slowly, a small firm embracing diversity, but promotions came harder, whispers of quotas undermining achievements. Margaret advanced in management, her confidence hard-won, yet performance reviews hinted at unseen biases. Their home, a modest apartment overlooking Puget Sound, became a fortress against the world, filled with mementos of triumphs and trials. Family reconciliations trickled in fragments. Delaney's mother reached out sporadically, tentative conversations skirting truths, progress measured in inches. Her father's silence persisted, a wound that festered. Margaret's siblings softened over time, secret meetings bridging gaps, but parents remained distant specters. Holidays were bittersweet, crafted traditions replacing lost ones, gratitude laced with longing. Society's evolution offered hope, laws shifting toward equality, but backlashes reminded of fragility. A local ordinance debate drew them into activism, voices raised in forums where hate speech flew unchecked. Delaney's speeches, born of personal fire, inspired some, alienated others. Internally, she weighed advocacy's risks versus silence's complicity. Margaret cautioned balance, their debates sharpening convictions. Personal betrayals lingered in memory, lessons in trust. Old friends drifted, new ones formed, alliances forged in shared struggles. A mentorship program connected them to younger women navigating similar paths, guidance a way to heal. But mentoring unearthed regrets. Did we choose wisely? Delaney pondered, seeing echoes of their pain in others. Health scares recurred, stress the silent killer. Margaret's therapy uncovered deep-seated traumas, sessions raw with revelations. Delaney joined, unpacking her own baggage. Guilt over Tom, now remarried and distant. Closure came in unexpected forms. A chance encounter at a conference, polite nods acknowledging mutual healing. Their relationship matured. conflicts evolving from explosive to constructive. Anniversaries celebrated milestones, reflections on the fitting room spark that ignited it all. Would you change it? Margaret asked once. Delaney paused. The pain, yes. The outcome, no. The answer encapsulated their journey. Damage irreversible, growth profound. Community involvement deepened. Volunteering at shelters exposing systemic injustices. Witnessing others' plights amplified their gratitude, but also anger at inequalities. A campaign for workplace protections consumed them. Victories hard-fought, defeats demoralizing. As time wore, wisdom tempered fire. Delaney authored a blog anonymously, stories veiled as fiction drawing readers into debates on love's ethics. Comments flooded. Affirmations, condemnations. It sparked her awakening. Narratives as weapons against prejudice. A major crisis tested bonds. Margaret's job loss amid corporate restructuring. Suspicion of discrimination fueling a lawsuit. Delaney supported fiercely. The battle draining resources and spirits. Courtrooms became arenas, testimonies bearing souls. Victory was partial, settlement without admission, but justice's taste bittersweet. Recovery brought introspection. Evenings on the balcony they discuss futures. Adoption dreams clashing with legal hurdles, retirement plans shadowed by financial scars. We've paid dearly, Delaney mused. Margaret agreed. But we've lived truly. The culmination came at a family reunion Delaney attended alone. Her mother's invitation to Olive Branch. Confrontations arose, uncles' judgments, cousins' curiosities. She defended her life unapologetically. The experience cathartic. Returning to Margaret, she shared. They're starting to see. In quiet moments doubts resurfaced. The moral maze of their choices, right for them, wrong for others? The awakening was undeniable. But the trail of hurt questioned its worth. Was sacrificing family ties and stability for personal truth ultimately the right choice? Or a selfish indulgence that perpetuated more pain than it resolved?